I would suggest that you round over, sand the 3 sharp corners of this center block here in the base, because those will show just a little bit at the front of the harp. So if you take a scrap of wood and wrap it with sandpaper, you can scrub the corners. A slightly rounded corner looks nicer than a very sharp edge. So just scrub those a little bit. It's not going to be terribly visible, but it's just nice to make it look smooth. Then we're ready to install the soundboard. Now we cut these soundboards a little oversized, so you want to have about this equal amount of overhang on each side here, all the way up. Make sure it goes beyond the top and sticks out a little bit below the bottom. It would be smart to put a little tape on here just to make sure it doesn't shift as we're making pencil marks. And what I do is, you can see where the end of the sides is along the bottom of the harp here, right in here. We want to mark the soundboard right above where that seam is. That's about the middle of the side then, and over in here. And you can do the same at the other end. You can see the seam right about there and there. Okay, so we've got marks at each end. Now your trim pieces, if you don't have a long straight edge, you can just use one of your trim pieces, sight along it to make sure it's not bent, and then lay it on your harp between those 2 lines and connect your marks. This will be where you will put your nails when you glue the soundboard on. We're going to glue it and nail it, tack it in place, because it's hard to find enough clamps, and sometimes it's hard to clamp at an angle, and so we just use nails all the way along here, and then these trim pieces are going to cover the nails afterwards. So you don't need to worry about how unsightly it'll look. The nails act as your clamps, basically. One more thing, let's draw that line about in the center of this bottom piece, so we know where to put nails across the bottom, so they go into solid wood. We don't bother putting them up here at this end. We'll just run the nails up each side up toward the top. Now we're ready to glue this soundboard on. You notice I put some tape on it so that I can position it and hold it in place once I spread the glue here. So before I do this, I'm going to just check my joints and make sure they're pretty level. And this one here has a bit of a ridge. These aren't too bad here. So I'll use my sanding blocks for that leveling purpose. It doesn't have to be perfect, but we like to get it fairly smooth here. Main thing is to keep it flat, and that's why a sanding block is so helpful, because you're laying it across a wide area and you're much more likely to keep parts. That should work fine. So now we'll spread some glue. I'm just going to do one ribbon of glue around, and then I'm going to stop on either side of the center here, because remember we have that notch. If I put glue there, I just have to clean it up later, so leave it like that. Okay, and then remember this part goes inside. And now I'm going to line it up again so my lines are even with these seams in the bottom and at the top. And I hold it with tape, and I'm going to put a nail in each corner just to secure it. Okay, then I'm just going to follow these pencil lines and put a nail every inch or so. When you get down to the bottom here, we want to put nails across the bottom also on that line. These are a little bit more critical, not in the placement, but just the fact that they add some strength to the box. When you get the harp strung up, the strings are going to be pulling the soundboard up, and the pillar will be pushing down into this notch. And so having nails along the soundboard here really secures the instrument well. It guards against something called cold creep, which occurs with some glues, where in the summer heat and humidity, or in a damp basement or something, when the glue gets warm enough and moist enough, it'll turn soggy, kind of like chewing gum. And because there's constant tension on the instrument, parts can get pulled apart just slightly when the glue softens. So adding these nails across the bottom prevents any movement at all, and so the cold creep never gets started. So I'm putting these nails about 3/4 inch apart or so, a little bit closer together than elsewhere. Good insurance against the future. There we go. So the soundboard is on. Now that the soundboard is on, we've got to trim it flush all the way around. There's excess soundboard all the way around.